Okay, here's a second attempt at the data shortcuts. I realized that it was only capturing the spreadsheet window itself in the last video, so I am redoing it to try to show all the pop-ups that come up as you work on things. So again, these are some data shortcuts. We talked about sequences of numbers. So I'll put my trial numbers here, and again I can go 1, 2, and highlight the two of them, bring them down. Now I'm only going to do like 10 rows so we can see everything and all that, but we can take care of this as all these ideas as we go. Now I'm going to center all this, so I'm going to highlight this and then go here to center, just so it looks better. Now in part B we want the averages, so I'm going to do the average here, and I guess I'll put the labels here so I know where to go. This will be observation 1, and then observation 2, like that. But again, I can use my nice pattern fill in because these end in numbers. It should just update those. And so we're just going to take the average of 5 observations, and so I say equals average, open this up with a parenthesis, highlight those items, close parenthesis, hit enter, and I get an error. It's divide by 0. That's okay. Once we fill in data, that'll be fine. And now again, I can I could fill this in just by pulling it down like that, and it copies everything correctly. But another nice thing is if I just went there and highlighted that cell, clicked on it once, and I double click over here, it just fills it in as far down as I have filled in beside it. And so that's a really nice feature because I can do it again here. So I put in my random number, ran between 1 and 9, 1 comma 9. I do that, hit enter, and I get a 7. Now that became a 7 because the average now of this thing is 7. And I can double click this to fill that whole thing in. Now the amazing thing here is suppose you fill sideways like that, and then double click on that, it fills everything in that way. So now I've got my 5 random numbers between 1 and 9, and I found the average. And so you see there, that's a very quick way to fill in the data. I really didn't have to type that much. If I have to go down to 1,000, well, yeah, I'd have to just go down like this, and well, I just go beyond the bottom, and it just keeps going, and I watch the counter until I would get near 1,000. But the nice part is, using that double click method, you can then fill in things beside your data very, very quickly just by doing the double click on the little black square on the bottom right corner. I have no idea what that just did, why that's a different color there. Doesn't matter at this point, I don't think. Anyway, we'll see. Okay, so there I was able to find the average, and now another thing we want to do with the data is we want to increase in part B from 5 observations to 10 observations. Well, before I do that, probably a good thing to do would be to highlight quite a few columns here. I'm going to go this far, A, B here, so that's some number of columns, somewhere around 25 columns. And I right click, I go down here to column width, and I'm going to choose something like say 0.5 inches. Say OK, and then I'm going to slide back, and so you see things are much narrower. And now, what I can do with these averages, again, another very quick way to not have to redo a whole lot is if I want to add the 10 columns, well, I can copy all this to a new sheet. So this is sheet 1, and I could rename it. So I go here to rename, and sheet 1, and I'll rename it to 5 observations. I think that's what it was in the project. So 5 observations. I click OK. So now that says 5 observations. Whoops, I didn't want to add one, so I'm just going to delete that sheet. Yes, I want to delete that sheet. What I want to do is right click and then move or copy sheet. And now it's only allowing me to copy the sheet because there's no place to move it. There's only one sheet. If I had more sheets here to begin with, one of my options would be to move, one option would be to copy. So I want to make a copy. It says 5 observations 2. Well, no, that's not what I want. It's giving me a warning here that, oh, I've already got that name. I'm going to call it 10 observations, and I'm going to move it to the end, and I say OK, and so you see 10 observations. It looks just like the other sheet. When I click on these two things, they look like the same structure. Now notice it updated the random numbers, so I'm getting different numbers here, but that's okay. That's the idea with the randomness. Now, so to go to 10 observations, what I'm going to do is I want to add in the middle of here. So, I could do something like just click in the middle here and say insert left, and I would have a column. And now notice that if I click here on average, what happened? The formula up here now goes from C2 to H2, so it includes the E. So if I add columns in the middle of where I'm already taking the average, the formula allows for me to fill in the middle. Now, filling in the middle like that with just a single column is probably not the most efficient, although I don't know, if you got very quick at it, maybe it'd be plenty efficient for you. But I'm going to undo that I just did and show you what I'd probably do is I would highlight 4 columns and then say insert to the right. Okay, so I insert to the right. Now, the reason I picked insert to the right is I needed those columns to split the old columns. The new columns had to be inside all the old columns in order for the average to update the right way. And so that added 4 more columns, and I do need 5, so I would have to do it one more time. Insert columns right. I could have picked left, but I'm keeping them all together. And now what I can do is I can highlight these, drag that over, and it will automatically update all those to my observation numbers that I want. And similarly, I can highlight this if I want and just drag it over like that, and it filled everything in. Now I've got my 10 observations, and my averages have all been updated. And if I need to go to the 25 observations, not a problem. Now I think I probably want to make these cells even a bit narrower. Column width, and I'm going to go to 0.35 inches. And I think they'll probably all fit on now. And again, I can go here and say highlight all those. I click insert columns left here in this case because I need them in between, so I'll pick insert columns left. That inserted 9 columns. That gives me 19. And if you aren't sure, you can always make sure you know how many you have just by filling in your observation numbers again. So I've got 19, so I've got to pick 6 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll insert columns left. There, that inserted the columns left, and I'll redo all those. There are my 25 columns, and once again I can highlight that and drag it over. Now, if I'm doing 1,000, I'm not going to highlight the whole thing all the way down to the bottom. I'm probably going to do it this way. I'm just going to take the top one, drag it over like that, and then double click that, and that will fill everything down 1,000 rows. And so there I've got my 25, and my averages, if you look at those, they go from C2, so that 8, all the way over to AA2, that's 6. So it is getting the average of that whole set of 25 observations. So that's a very quick way to do this. Now, on the second set, when I did the 25 observations, I didn't do a copy again and so forth, because this isn't my project. I've already done my project, and so I will have a third tab for 25 observations, but that's how I would do it, is I just copy and I'd fill in for this item. So there are some data shortcuts, keyboard type things that you can do, fill in type things you can do to make it way quicker to go ahead and complete the data portions of this project.